guess just a caution that if you choose a tradition to memorialize your person around a holiday and it involves other people doing something, just recognize that that's a possibility, that other people may not fulfill their part of what you're expecting, and just allow space for that so that you're not disappointed and discouraged. Because that's where I had to get, is like, okay, I can't expect my validation to come from these external sources. I had to just recognize, like, okay, this was a thing. I'm glad that people did it when they did, but they're not doing it now. And it doesn't mean that they don't still love my baby and they don't still love me and that they don't still remember. It's just, it wasn't their kid, and so they're not as connected to it. And so it's okay. Right. And so I had to really make peace with that. And then actually just this year I was looking, so we also have a special Christmas tree that we set up with all of Emily's special ornaments on it. And it's just her tree. And I thought to myself the other day, her stocking is up as well, and it's completely empty. And I was like, what am I going to do with this empty stocking? Like, why am I still hanging her stocking? Like, it's important to me that she's part of this celebration. But at the same time, I'm like, it feels like it's just taking up empty space, And I had to really make peace with that thought, because I was like, how dare you think that your daughter's stocking is taking up empty space, But at the same time, there was just this piece of me that was like, I can let this go. And I probably will still hang the stocking because it's, a tradition and she's part of the family and it's there, but just recognizing that it's okay, that I can let these things go. And it doesn't mean that I don't still love my kid and that I'm forgetting or moving on or whatever. Right. I'm just acknowledging that the grief is evolving and it's changing and I can change and grow with it, and it's okay. And, just, there is hope, and the farther out you get from it, it gets easier. And like you said, it's not that it goes away, it just gets less heavy.
Yeah. I love what you're saying. I love this message that you're sharing about being able to let go of some things, because that's also a really important part of the grief process, right? There really comes a time where you feel content to let some of the more physical things go. And it's true, you're not letting them go. In a way, it's, it's similar with your own living children, right? I mean, I have recently moved. So I've gone through boxes and boxes of my children's kindergarten paintings, right? Or pictures, or and I was speaking to a lady who said that she had recently she saved every piece of paper that her daughter ever created from childhood on, right? Because it was so special to her. And she was moving, she got it all boxed up, she brought it to her daughter, and her daughter's like, Mom, I don't want any of this. It was special to her. And yet she, the person who created it, was able to let it go. And it helped Mom to be able to let it go. I wonder with our loved ones if they would also like to see us be able to let some things go. Of course we don't let them go. Of course they matter and are important. But I wonder if they're thinking, you better get my stocking up this year, Mom, or I'm not going to know that you love me.
Right.
It's probably not a thought. Just like when Sydney's 18 and she leaves home, she's probably going to say, I don't know what you want me to do with my kindergarten, certificate of advancement, Mom. I don't want it. Yeah. Because that is the nature of life, is that we continue to grow. And so maybe that's just a normal thing. But I'm glad you brought that up. I have a big version of that. Steve and I, we brought our 4-month-old baby. Our youngest was 4 months old when we moved into the house that we lived in when he passed away. And he passed away in our home. And so for one thing, I loved our house. It was where we raised our kids. I never thought we'd ever leave. And then when I met Michael, who is also widowed, we got married a few years after our spouses passed away. I told him, I said, I'm not willing to relocate. So he, with so much compassion, moved into this home that I had shared with my husband for almost 25 years. And there were ways that we made it our own, but it was interesting. We had friends who had similarly had remarried, and they built a home together. And I remember my friend Brad telling me, "You're going to want to move. You're going to do it. You're going to want to." And I thought, I don't think so. I'm never going to move. And it was interesting. Michael was so patient. We had this property at the river. It's beautiful out here. There was no reason for me not to want to be here, other than that being here was painful. It was a painful reminder of this lost future that I thought I was going to have. But he suggested, well, maybe, what do you think about moving out here? And so I dragged my feet, and we worked with an architect, and every delay was fine, and now we're, 2 years later, we've moved in finally last Friday. So this Christmas will be a new Christmas for me in a new location. But it's interesting how allowing myself to go through the process with the time that I needed has made it a joyous experience for me. Like, I got to where I was excited that I was going to leave the house. And I wasn't excited because I was leaving a house of memories or the house that I shared with Steve. It was that I'm in a different phase of life now. So this is a normal phase. I'm an empty nester. Mm-hmm. The house we had was a house where we raised 4 children. It's a big house with lots of bedrooms and a yard, and I don't need or want that responsibility anymore. And that would be normal if Steve had been alive. We would have normally said, let's downsize, let's move to, to this other place. And so, I'm not sure what my point was, other than I started rambling.
You gave yourself permission to get there. You didn't rush into, okay, we just got married, now we have to leave behind this house. You allowed yourself the space to get there on your own.
Right.
And so, like you said, once it happened, then you were excited about it. Whereas if you had just done it because, okay, I'm getting married, we have to move, I think you would have created even more mourning and grief for yourself, because you also left that house when you weren't ready,
Yes. Because at the beginning, it would have felt like I was leaving Steve behind.
Yeah.
And, and my first Christmas, Steve passed away in May of 2021. And my first Christmas, I was really lucky, really blessed that 3 of my 4 kids were able to come home, and we were able to be together. And so we all had kind of a weird first Christmas together. There was joy because one of my sons had a new baby, and so we had joy around that. But then we all had, the grief of, this isn't like it was, Dad's not here. So actually the next year, we purposely decided to go somewhere else for Christmas. We went on a trip together. Mm-hmm. And we did that the year after. But now, again, I'm back to, I don't want to be gone. I want to be home. So there's a transition you go through from the holidays feeling empty and weird and strange because the people you love aren't with you, to this is a new phase, a new time, and being able to create a space for new memories, new traditions. I've also found that New Year's, once I got to a point where I thought, okay, I am going to find someone and create a new future with a new person. I can remember for a couple of years I was on a dating app, and I saw this phenomenon the first New Year's, and then the second New Year's. I saw that the widowers all kind of came out after Christmas. It was like New Year's, and all of a sudden there were all these widowers on the site, that's what I wanted I wanted to find somebody who had had a similar experience as me. So it was interesting because I would ask them, why did you decide to join this dating app now? And, well, I made it through the holidays, so I figured I might as well give it a chance. and maybe that's part of the message of hope for the New Year's, that you will make it through the holidays. You'll make it, and you'll experience what you experience. But the New Year really, it's an artificial boundary, but it's still a marking in time that you can use as an opportunity to look forward to the new possibilities of what the future might have in store. And even if New Year's has a sneaker wave of pain like you experienced, Chris, or even if New Year's is still in the middle of your grief season as you experienced, Daree, there's still hope that comes just by looking that there is a future out there and you're a part of it. You're alive. You're here. You can grow and learn and experience and love. And I think it's really good to allow ourselves to have some hope